What's going on, y'all? My name is Mika. I'm a wig maker with over 12 years of experience, and in this video, I am going to show you how I make lace closure wigs by hand without a sewing machine. This wig is for my beautiful client, Stanya. She provided two 14-inch bundles and a 5x5 lace closure. I use stick pins to pin down the mesh dome cap onto the wig block, and this will keep the mesh dome cap in place while we work. We'll also use the stick pins as a guide while we sew down the wefts. So we're going to sew down the closure first, and I like to pull it down so that it's about 1/4 of an inch in front of the mesh dome cap. You want the lace to be in front of your hairline, that way you can customize it to make it look natural. Pin your lace closure down with your stick pins. I prefer stick pins over T-pins. Sometimes the T-pins can snag your lace closure if you're not careful, so I just avoid those at all costs. So use stick pins. I place one on each side, but when I get to the sides of the lace closure, I use quite a bit, and you're going to see that in a second. When we sew down the lace closure, we're going to do one side at a time. So I start with the right. After I pin the closure down with my stick pins, I stitch it down. Now, when I start to stitch down my closure, or even with the wefts, I don't start at the very end. It's at least 1/4 of an inch from the end, and then I stitch to the end, and then I go back. So do you see what I did there? So I'm going to the end, and then once I go to the end, I'm going to start stitching back. That's just going to reinforce the lace closure and our tracks when we start a new track, and end a track after we cut it. And that's how it looks. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Pin her on down. I like to use the colorful pins. It just makes me happy. So never start on one side of the closure and sew all the way around. Always do one side first, go to your other side, then the back. Once you're done, cut it with your scissors, tie your knot at least 3 times. And then what I like to do is, just to make sure everything is nice and flat and it's not lumpy, I like to take a comb and comb it, or at least rub my fingers through it to make sure everything is all good. So now it is time for the fun part. We are going to sew down these bundles. And right here, I'm just attaching the thread to the mesh dome cap. And again, I never start at the very beginning of the weft. So we're going to sew towards the end, and then once we get to the end, we're going to start sewing back and continue to sew down the rest of that weft. What I'm doing here is just comparing sides, because I want to stop at the same point I started on the other side. You want the wig to have the same amount of hair on each side. You don't want one side to be thinner or fuller than the other. To start your next row, simply fold over your weft without pulling. You don't need to pull it, just fold it over, pin it down if needed, and stitch it down. If you're not able to hold the weft while you stitch, use your stick pins and pin them down. That way you don't have to even worry about it. Once we get to the other side, you want to sew past where you started. So see how that's where we started, and we're going to sew about where my thumb is. Or you can sew further up if you want. I usually do inch by inch. This is one of the reasons why I still like to make wigs by hand. I'm able to sew along that elastic band without going through it. And I'm able to cover up that entire part. When you lift the wig up, you will not see the cap at all. You'll just see the hair. This was the last row that I folded over because after this point it could look bulky, just depending on the wefts, but that was the last one that I folded over. And this is the only row that I doubled because I did not want to run out of hair. I had exactly enough hair to make this wig, y'all. We are almost done, but as you can see, we're going to have more work to do in the back than we will on the sides. I like to continue to sew side to side, but when I reach the top, I don't like to, how should I say it? I like to use one continuous weft around the closure. So if I have any holes between that weft that I stitched underneath the closure or right at the closure where I'm at now, I'll go back and I'll fill that in. And there was an area where I had a hole and I felt the need to add some hair. And it's right here. We are all done, so we want to go ahead and remove the mesh dome cap from underneath the lace closure. We do not need that. Be careful. Do not cut the lace. Do not cut the stitching. Girl, be careful. So Stanya did not want combs added. She did not request to have the knots bleached. And what else? She want her part on the right side. I molded the top down with my foaming lotion. Here is the style that she wants. I am so proud of her for trying something different. My girl wanted a bob. I will leave a link to my website if you would like to start your custom wig order. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. I will be more than happy to answer. Let me know what you guys want to see next. I'm thinking about trying to make a, what is it? A U-part crochet wig. Yeah, I think I want to try that next. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.